Hello, everyone, and welcome to another issue of our APMG Midday Mentors program. Today, we talk about business relationship management, and I'm welcoming Kip Fanta, who's the principal of the Kip Fanta Group. Hi, Kip. Good to see
Hi, Stefan. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
you. We have met earlier at a variety of conferences and other areas, so we know each other a little bit. I know you are a practicing BRM, a business relationship manager, probably acting and practicing before this was even called business relationship management. Would you mind sharing a few stories out of that?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to work 25 years at Proctor Gamble, and within those 25 years, I had multiple BRM assignments. And from an IT perspective, actually also from a total global business services perspective, where our president of GBS, our CIO, said, I need to put these roles into place in the markets, in the particular business divisions, because I can't be everywhere. You know, the leader of GBS can't be everywhere, the CIO. So I had the fortunate opportunity to kind of start as a junior BRM, and we called it client managers, a lot of different titles. But I was a BRM as a junior, and then all the way up to a senior BRM. And a lot of my experiences were from that time. So I just loved it. And working with key business leaders to see the power of converging between IT and business, the shared services of business was fantastic. So a lot of my stories and background come from those experiences because it was, I think, the secret sauce actually in what IT was doing and what the shared services organizations were doing. I think it was the relationships out in the market, out in the business areas that really helped elevate the value of what we were doing. So I'm excited to build from that time.
So it paid off for Procter and Gamble in the end.
Oh. Yeah, because fundamentally, as one business leader said, hey, Kip, these organizations on the outside, they're coming to us directly. I always like to tell these stories. They're getting on our calendar because of all this cool stuff. And I know we need to work with you guys, Kip. You guys mean IT, shared service, but you better step up. And so we began to recognize we've got to get closer to the business and understand what's important to them. At the same time, stay strong as a function. And so it was the and. I need to drive a one IT, a one shared service GBS organization, and get closer. And it was, I think, a critical turning point. This was way, way back now, decades ago, when we began this. It was a part of a whole big restructure. And these roles were a part of the company restructure that we put in place.
All right, and I mean, probably Procter and Gamble wasn't the only pilot. I can imagine that there were some other organizations who realized that they had to do things differently. So,
Yeah.
what do you think, or what is your experience about other corporations, how they applied something like business relationship management?
Yeah, I think the smart ones, and we know that this has been going on for a long time. When I uh, came upon BRM Institute, I was like, wow, there's like an institute and there's a frameworks and models, and it was fantastic to find them when I did, which was for me in 2016. Organizations have had BRM capabilities, right? And it's
Mhm.
something that's been out there. What organizations began to realize is we've got to make sure we're getting closer and not that gap between the function and the business and the organization. So it's been going on for a long time, but I can tell you that many are still not realizing these are new tools, these are new competencies and behaviors. You can't keep doing what we did in the 90s and the early 2000s. It has to change. And those that are approaching it are being smart. They're thinking about it holistically. They're thinking about a way to sustain this. But it's requiring different thinking than I'm an IT professional chair. I needed new skills. I needed new behaviors. I needed to step up on leadership. So I still find a lot of organizations struggling, but a lot of them are realizing if we don't do some of these things related to this capability of business relationship management, I'm losing ground. I will be back office. I will be less relevant. And no one wants that. So I find a mix out there still of organizations that are doing a good job and some that are still not where they need to be in this space.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the BRM Institute, and they have published a body of knowledge, and there's just recently a new one, which
Yes.
brings me to the point which we know from other frameworks. Would you agree that the business relationship management, all the principles, are a best practice, something that has been derived from experience, or is it rather something where people say, well, this is the way it should be?
Well, I think it's a great question. And I'll be referencing even some fresh things out of the BRMConnect conference last week, this was talked. Because as you said, Stefan, they're coming out, they've evolved, which is great. Kind of what's the learnings of the last many years with their body of knowledge. And so a new body of knowledge is coming as we speak. And Leanne from the Purdue team coined it this way, and I know she took it, there's a best practice, plus then you have to take in your environment, your current context, that best practice that I believe, Stefan, there's incredible best practices that the BRM Institute started with years ago that continue to refine. And then you need to understand your context, your environment, and build those together. You have the good practices. You have the applications then that's going to make sense within your organization. The organizations that just take a best practice blindly and don't start to think about the application or don't start to understand how that fits into their strategy and operating model. I love how the BRM Institute always talked about how does this fit into the strategy and operating model of your organization. Some CIOs, some shared service leaders don't talk about that. And if they just try to take some BRM capabilities and don't fit it into the context, they're going to struggle. So again, Leanne had a whole presentation of how do you apply the BRM Institute models and framework. It's got to make sense within your environment, your frameworks. Those are the organizations that are doing a good job. It might take a little bit longer, but it's going to be sustainable and holistic versus they get excited about BRM and it goes away. And so that's a little bit of the differences I'm seeing. The approach, the strategic approach of taking, as you said, I think there's some incredible best practices that have been built over these years on value, strategic partnership, culture, purpose. But now, how does that come to life and applied? Important work that everyone has to do.
There's one thing, it's probably one of those main principles and goals of the BRM Institute's body of knowledge, is the maturity model, where you go from an order taker, and I think you mentioned something like that in the beginning, into a really strategic partner. And I think as long as that principle is there and the goal stays there, and I think it's an important one. But what I can see, and also from what you're saying, is yes, it's thrilling, but it might not just working by following the rules in the book. It has to be adjusted.
Yeah, you have to understand, of course, your context, your baseline, where you are, and it's a journey. You're not going to all of a sudden, as an individual, move from an ad hoc order taker to strategic partner. The building of trust, the building of relationships, one individual at a time. We talked a lot last week, one relationship at a time. And ultimately, then your function can start to be more strategic to that organization. But that's a journey. And again, you can have some areas of the organization that has bad experiences with your function. You're just going to have to address that and work on that. But boy, this is the right time to be doing this work. I get so excited about this work because we have an opportunity, one person at a time, to really do some exciting things related to this capability called business relationship management. We talked last week of leadership as a practice. Everyone, as individuals, has an opportunity. You're not waiting for leadership to do business relationship management capability. Everyone has the ability to kind of take a next step in this space. But it's not for the timid. It takes courage. But we don't want organizations to kind of like get so frustrated with the functions and I don't want, no, we need people that are right in the middle. Right in the middle trying to bring this convergence. And that's a tough place, but a rewarding place to be as individuals and for functions that want to really drive that value.
Let me just highlight one last topic, which I found was now in the evolution coming up with the Institute and probably also with myself. It's the relationship-centered organization.
Yeah.
It is no longer following the structures that we know for decades, but it is based on other principles. We have examples like that. There's one example mentioned is Patagonia.com. Do you see this happening when you look at your clients where you're doing business relationship? Do you see this already happening, or are we mature enough for that?
I think it's a great question. And so when I'm out with clients, again, I'm going to really make sure I understand where they are on these discussions, Stefan. So we talk about the relationship-centered organization. There are a lot of businesses and clients that might be more engineering, IT, and relationships. What's that? And you're going to have to help them understand the value of what we're talking here. So you have to know how to take them from, I just need this kind of project getting done, to the importance of the culture and the relationships, which might be a little bit higher level than they've been thinking. And so we have an opportunity to kind of meet them where they are, but help them understand the power of some of these other things. And the relationships organization, how many relationships need to be stronger within the function? What I like about this is all these touch points. A lot of my work is not between like IT and the organization. It's actually internal IT relationships.
Yeah.
How do we start to make the relationships work better all over the place? And so I think there's a huge opportunity here. But to your point, you have to understand where they are, and by individual, by company, organization, by fund, they're going to be different places. And so again, best practice, what's the current environment you're in? Now let's work together on the good practice, the good application for us as we think about people and purpose and planet, all these things that the Institute is focused on with good frameworks, good best practices, but you have to make sure we're applying it in a way that works for them. Yeah.
Kip, I'm really thrilled about your passion with this topic. The Kip Fanta Group is also educating and training people who want to learn more about how to become a business relationship management professional or even further. Kip, it was great having you with me in our program, in our Midday Mentors program. Hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to be with you.